Russian leader Vladimir Putin has blamed radical Islamists for the Moscow concert hall attack, suggesting Ukraine, though, was also involved. Joining me live in the studio is Dr. Hanna Shelest. She's Director of Security Studies and Global Outreach at the Foreign Policy Council Ukrainian Prism. Hanna, thanks for your time. What do you make of Putin trying to claim that Ukraine had some responsibility for that atrocity?
Thank you for the invitation. And, that was quite interesting because even the Russians and their social networks, and we were able to monitor what they are saying, they were really laughing from this because that is like blaming Ukraine in everything. But usually you are blaming in Russia three countries, the United States, Israel, and Ukraine. We are guilty in everything what is happening. No toilets in school, we are guilty. Terroristic act, we are guilty. The reason is because instead of really noticing those all notification about terroristic attacks that Russian state de facto missed, they decided to create this information bubble when everybody are too busy with blaming the natural enemies as they see it, rather than understanding why their security services in high alert were not able to predict such an attack.
So where do those attacks within Russia come from? What sort of population are we talking about that would carry that out?
You need to understand that within the last more than 10 years, there have been a lot of the Russian citizens who've been serving in ISIS or in other organizations in the Middle East. Don't forget about the Russian involvement in Syria within the many years, but even before, because you need to remember the history of Afghan involvement, of the Central Asian Muslim states and ethnic minorities of the Muslim regions that have been recruited. And unfortunately, the Russian Federation was not conducting a proper preventive work with them, how to avoid these people to go to the Middle East to fight. But we had these fighters in Iraq, we had these fighters in Syria, we had these fighters in many other countries, and we know about the connections between the different radical groups in Russia with the radical groups in the Middle East since the probably 1970s.
Right, okay. So let's turn our attention from that Russian atrocity in Moscow to the front line in your country. What's the latest from the front line? As I understand it, Russia has continued to focus and attack the critical infrastructure.
That's the question is that we can say that the whole Ukraine is a front line because of the use of those missiles and Iranian drones, Shaheds, that against Ukraine, even the 2,000 kilometers from the actual front line where the military is stationing are under the constant attack. For example, Odessa is my own city, is approximately 300 kilometers from the very, very front line on the south. And we are just now, this moment, coming here. I was opening the news. We are under the attack of Shaheds, and a few hours ago it was the missile attack that destroyed one of the residential buildings because they tried to get the building of the security services of Ukraine. 2 days ago, it was Lviv, which is just at the Polish border, so absolutely different cross of the country. But cities that are at the front line, they are under the hourly attack. I cannot say daily, it's hourly attack. And what we haven't expected during winter with all those attacks against the energy infrastructure is last year, they started it last week. And now in Odessa, that's the city of more than 1 million people, approximately 1/3 are without electricity because of the yesterday attacks. Kharkiv is 2 days blackout. And that is also the city of 1 million people.
And finally, why do you see it is of Australia's strategic interest to be involved and for Ukraine to win?
I would say that it's really very simple. First of all, it is one of those wars where you have really black and white, something that we forgot in the history that can happen. You have a clear invader, aggressor, and the country that is defending human rights values, defending against the war atrocities, and just to be a sovereign and independent state, because we never had any claims against the Russian Federation. The second thing is we need to understand that even that this war is Russian-Ukrainian war, but the implications are much wider. Russia violated all the international conventions, and now other countries around the globe are looking, okay, you're not punished. Why we cannot do the same over here? You already see it with Houthi and how they act in the Red Sea. You see the maritime security, food security, and others. So it's that much interconnected in our world that you even cannot imagine.
Dr. Hanna Shelest, thank you for joining us during your brief visit to Canberra. I appreciate it, and all safe travels back home.
Thanks a lot.